It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, I cannot tell you how excited I am for this, Mzansi. Welcome to it. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show on Expresso, and we are talking about something that we could all learn more about, relationships. It's Relationship Tuesday on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and while we love all the advice you share on our socials, we also have a viewer who is in need of help.
Oh my goodness, a young man by the name of Sihle, in fact, reached out to us. But before we get into this, let's take a listen together to what he had to say.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Expresso Show. Sihle here from Pretoria. I'm having a challenge. How can you best trying to make your partner feel really comfortable on sharing each and everything when it comes to negative and positive situations that she's facing? I'm currently sitting in that situation where I'm having a challenge in making her feel comfortable in sharing each and everything. Please, can we have some advice?
I love that voice note. Absolutely brilliant. And I think a lot of us can possibly relate to this. So it's not going to be the two of us that dive through this. We're going to bring in someone special, Brett van der Schaaf. He is a clinical psychologist who will be helping us explore the world of effective communication relationships. And that's with a special focus on how to get your partner to open up more. So let's dive in and remind you, Mzansi, the number is 063-408-8863. Come through. And if you have advice for Sihle as well, or want to be a part of our conversation, we absolutely are welcoming everything that you have. Brett, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Well, thank you yourself.
Yeah,
No, we're
fantastic. Man.
good. I'm very excited to get into this conversation with Sihle. What I find really interesting, and this is from a woman's perspective, is that it's usually us hoping the guys would open up more and share more of their lives. Now we're hearing Sihle saying, how do I get the good and the bad out of my future wife, maybe, my girl, my girlfriend?
Yes.
What are some of the common communication barriers that perhaps we experience as humans in relationships that are having us close up?
So I would say there's quite a few, obviously. We can name some of them. So things like distance, perhaps, distance, cultural differences, maybe language differences. But then some of the things that we don't often see, which would be things like maybe being passive-aggressive when we speaking or communicating. What's it, defensiveness? So when somebody speaks to us, do we become quite defensive?
Yeah.
Or are there underlying issues that we haven't dealt with? And those can often play a sort of, it sort of hinders us from communicating quite effectively.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of some of those.
And it's easy to be a victim or the culprit of the situation, because I think with communication, it becomes so grey when we are unable to express. How do we express a situation or feeling like Sihle has to our partner? And especially if, let's say, when you mention these roles being slightly reversed from the masculine to the feminine, often as a man, you're not supposed to necessarily care as much. Like you just want to have yourself together. You want to just do your thing and be strong. But yet this is a man that I think is the future. This is a man that I would love more men to be. One that cares, one that has this compassion. How do they, in a masculine way, let's say, still be honest about this and bring this issue across to their partner?
So, I mean, not to dive too much into masculinity, but we can still be very masculine while still being very open and vulnerable. And that is normal, it's healthy.
Yeah.
But for somebody like Sihle, you want your partner to feel safe, you want them to feel comfortable. I think that's always what I aim for, even just when working with people. But I think self-awareness is so important. And for somebody like him that is saying, how do I make her feel comfortable?
Right.
It's about knowing your tone when you speak to the person. It's about knowing your posture. Is the person feeling that, there's a sense of aggression when connecting with them? Are you doing everything to show that you are listening to them? Or even saying to them, is it okay if we can sit and talk? And that kind of permission seeking helps somebody not to feel attacked, so they feel that this is also part of their decision to be able to sit and connect then.
Sure. Can I ask you, you touched on safety, and I'm very curious how you imagine perhaps Sihle or somebody in his position can create that safe space. You said self-awareness is good, but maybe taking it quite practically, how exactly can they go about creating a safe space?
So if we think practically, I often think environment first. Sitting in a place where maybe it's a bit more quiet and you can concentrate on each other so there aren't distractions. But I think safety it's established over a period of time. It's not just the first time that you guys sit down. And learning to trust that feeling. If something feels off, you know, trust your intuition, that gut feeling that exists. But again, it exists over a period of time, and you have to show your partner that they can feel safe with you. You know,
Sure.
it happens over, you know, months as trust is established.
Is it a matter of, let's say, going towards having moments to communicate? Do you kind of schedule in like every weekend we're gonna like catch up and just have like a moment where we put our phones off? Or do you rather just kind of address it? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Would there be a best practice when it comes to like the one-on-one guide here?
So it's couple dependent.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
I think certain people like when you allocate time to sit and so say for example every Tuesday at 6 till 8 o'clock we sit down, we have supper and then we maybe watch something on TV and during that time we put our phones off, we leave it in the room. For me that works. I think that is something that I find was healthy and just to like take all the distractions away. For other people they like to be sort of more spontaneous and do something different and say, well, let's go to the beach, let's go chat there.
Yeah.
So again, it's couples learning to understand each other a bit better.
Yeah.
I
I
think
want to rub Sanela in a little bit, but I did have a bit of a selfish question on my side too. I think that I've been in similar situations like this, and maybe I'm also guilty of shutting down, right? Instead of being open to the situation. So where can I take accountability in that sort of space? Instead of shutting down, maybe being more open to the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say be open, but we also have to understand why are you closing down, for example, or anybody. So some people become highly anxious. They want to resolve everything right now. And then you get people that are slightly more avoidant and they are the type that wouldn't want to resolve it. They need a little bit of space. And space may be a couple of minutes. It might be hours or days. But it's understanding yourself. And we go back to self-awareness. And something that I think I would always reiterate is, are you doing the self-work? Are you understanding yourself? Or are you spending so much time understanding somebody else, but you can't control other people? You can't, you can only manage yourself. And so you then start feeling more, or start feeling less distressed when you focus more on your own behavior.
Sure, that's a crazy one.
bars of gold. Listen, there's so many people wanting to be a part of this conversation, and Zanella and Jobo has been listening quite attentively to this. Zanella, apparently you have something you wanted to maybe query here?
It's my feel good breakfast show.
Oh, yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show opening up on S3 to some incredible conversation. We had part one of a good, diverse convo about our relationships. We were talking about how, especially with our conversation and our example of Sihle, he came through and asked how he can effectively get more out of his relationship, find out more from his partner, but at the same time, without feeling too needy. Now, we dived and touched on that topic in a bit, and we had Brett here just providing nuggets of gold. So thank you again for that. But this is part two, so let's carry on diving into more detail about this. There's so much to talk about, yeah.
And we've also asked you to weigh in, and we've received a voice note. So let's see if this will help the case or maybe add some more spice to what we've got going.
Good morning, Expresso family. I just need to know, how can you trust somebody that keeps on telling lies? Somebody, 1 minute, the person is all good and nice. The next minute, the person changes in 2 seconds. You don't know the personality. And constant hiding. You don't know where you stand. 7 years, still going. So I can't relate. I just need to know, how do I deal?
7 years?
Wow. How do you run away and walk away from that? That's crazy. And do you even, or do you keep working at it? This is tough, Brett.
I mean, it is a very difficult question. I'm just going to be honest and say, can you trust that person? Because the person is showing inconsistency, and if you're saying they're constantly lying, you're asking something that is almost, I want to say, not possible. That's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. And I think that she needs to communicate with him that, you know, she's finding it really difficult to trust him because of that, and she would like to. But she's saying, you know, she's not saying I would like to leave. She's saying I want to work on this. That's kind of what I'm getting.
Yeah.
But the thing that keeps coming back to mind is, can you trust this, and can you have a healthy relationship? It's not that I encourage people to break up or to stay. I often say
Right.
you have to meet the truth. And you know, is this person giving you what you deserve, or what you would like? And that's the question she would have to answer.
Oh, it's a tough one at that too. I honestly go off patterns of behavior. So I would look back at 6 months, a year, and like you said, see the consistencies or inconsistencies.
Yes.
And if there are bad patterns and red flags left, right, and center, it almost makes the decision easier. But after 7 years is a very tough time. So you saying it can't just be black and white. It's not just about breaking up. There is space for recovery.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I think, you know, I think we like to remain hopeful. We like to help people. But again, it comes back to underlying issues. When I listen to this voice note, and then I'm sitting here and thinking, you know, why is this person, you know, is there this hope or this desire that something will play out? Is it a fantasy? And does it go back to her past? And so my mind's sort of all over the place in trying to conceptualize what's happening here.
Right.
But can everything be resolved? I think sometimes no, it can't. And that's the thing that we don't often want to face, is that certain relationships have sort of run its ground, and we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But that isn't what we first head for. We try to resolve where we can.
I mean, you put myself in those shoes as well. It's a human feeling, I'm sure, that everyone would share, to not be disappointed that I invested 7 years into this relationship. I sacrificed, I worked towards something, and the reality is that it isn't what I wanted. It isn't giving me the stimulation. At what point do you actually walk away? Because you have to be honest with yourself, right? Which you mentioned earlier is one of the most important things in a relationship, is understand what you want, understand what you need, and then if you can effectively communicate that, it'll make it a lot easier. So would that be the first step here, to have our viewer that just mentioned this conundrum, mention that she's not getting this, mention it to her partner? Should she put a date in place where if she doesn't get the sort of response,
Right.
is it fair of her to say, well, if I don't get this response by this date, you're not leaving me with a choice and I need to walk away? Or should she just try and try and try? This is a tricky one as well, I know.
It's not that I want to promote psychology, but I should also. Is that so? If you're struggling with the relationship, I often would say, see a counselor. I don't think you can put a date on something that is this difficult or challenging. There's a reason people go back to difficult relationships.
Yeah.
And the thing that doesn't work is telling them to leave it, because often that person will do exactly the opposite. Seeing a therapist and being able to work through the underlying difficulties, for lack of a better word, can help you make a more informed decision, because it is case specific. And I think as you learn more about yourself, you learn and understand why you are staying, you understand your values, and then you start learning also how to deal with these challenges. And in that way, you might even learn that you can interact with that person, with your partner, differently, or you might realize that this actually isn't working. So it's an informed decision you make that might take a few months, or it might take a couple of years, but again, case specific.
Sheesh, all I'm saying is that this level of adulting we're on right now is next level. People are coming through with their messages and voice notes. You're doing a great job here, Brett. August had something to say, so let's have a listen.
Good morning. I am August Lambrecht.
Morning.
I am 59 years of age, and me and my wife were married last year 26 years. And the thing is that that keep us together for such a long time is honesty. You must be honest, and you must be supportive, and you must be everything for your partner. And you have to understand each other, and then everything is going to be just right.
And I believe him when he says
like
that.
it. You can
Everything's
hear
going to
that.
be all right.
26 years, some great
Wow.
sage advice, I think, there. Highlighting a lot of what we've discussed right now. Brett, he speaks about communication, honesty, finding out and exploring your partner.
I like
and
that.
I really like that, because I think it allows you to also discover through your relationship as well. Great stuff, Augustine. Thank you for sharing that and inspiring us. I love love. I love the fact
love
that it
love.
still exists out there. It's real. Listen, we got more voice notes. Let's keep it rolling.
Me again. I married a man, and after 3 months meeting him, having met him, I learned he had given me the wrong name. His name was Daniel. After 3 months, I discovered it's Gavin. Sure, I married him. Am I 50 plus or am I 50 plus? Big mistake. But I have my daughter, so I'm grateful for her. Blessings, everybody. Everybody has its deck, so
Whoa. Okay, so the way I understand that, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. It seems like she did meet someone, an initial red flag happened 3 months in, and it sounds like that relationship no
continued.
longer worked out in the end, but she did marry him?
Yes, and then had a child.
Wow, interesting. I wonder if they're still together now, though. It doesn't sound like it.
Oh, I don't know. That's something. I don't know. Maybe it seems superficial, but again, not giving your real name just sounds a little bit.
Is that
red
important?
flag to me?
I don't know. The first thing that then comes up is, what else are you
What
hiding?
else are you hiding?
Yeah.
Why? It's not like it was your second name, perhaps, or whatever. But again, why are you hiding things, and what are you hiding? And I don't know. I think we need to trust that it's difficult to tell because there's probably more information needed. But does this person feel that they can trust, their partner, and even the explanation for them, say, not giving their real name? I think again, it's case dependent.
Yeah.
And I would say more information is needed.
Of course,
But if
yeah.
somebody is lying and hiding information about themselves, that's quite important. I would say it's a massive red flag.
It is a red flag. Look, the thing is, though, like, I would imagine, maybe you can highlight more of this, but don't you think people lie because, in a relationship, I'd lie because I wouldn't want to scare you away. Yeah. Right? So I wouldn't want to, like ruin the situation. You often hear these reasons as to why I
You're
didn't
putting
tell
your
you.
best foot forward.
Why didn't you tell me sooner? I don't want to scare you away. I don't want to hurt you. Is that just?
Would we call it like white lies, maybe?
Yeah, like a white lie, yeah.
So sometimes we play down the intensity of certain things. We might say we don't enjoy this when we do. But if it's things that are major that affects a relationship, the nature of, if you have kids and you're hiding the fact that you have kids, that's important to know.
That's a big one.
Or that you're married.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Listen, the voice notes are definitely coming through. I think we've got time for one more, so let's roll it on and hear what our viewer has to say.
Is it a good thing to check your partner's phone? Is this a good thing to check your partner's phone?
Is
Great
it a
question.
good thing to check your partner's phone?
Is it?
There's so many people that want to know the answer to this, Brett. Tell us now.
And I've heard mixed reactions on this because I know of some relationships where they like freely
Open.
share it, open. I'm like, no way, is that desecrating personal trust? Brett, how do you weigh in on this one?
Sure. The country's waiting.
The country needs an answer here, bro.
So I don't think that. I think it's okay to share a phone, but if your partner's going through your phone and looking for something, then can that person trust you? And how would your relationship be quite tense? So, if your partner needs to use your phone to make a phone call or to Google something, I don't see why not. But I think if your partner's going through your phone all the time, that in its own is a red flag. I would think that brings up or shows the insecurity. And so I would say that the person going through the phone also needs to become a little bit aware of what are you actually looking for. And if there's a history of not being able to trust, that's, it's more than just going through a phone.
Yeah.
Do you have a right as, like, let's say someone in a relationship to not feel bad or not feel guilty, knowing that you didn't do anything wrong, but still say, no, I don't want you to look at my phone? Is it okay to hold your phone as something private and have that as a boundary in a relationship?
I think boundaries are important, and the phone is a very personal thing. So you only you know the truth, and if you feel that you haven't done anything wrong, I think you do have the right to say, but this is my personal phone, and if you're going through it with this intention, then that can be quite malicious. It's one thing doing it once and showing, but I haven't done anything. But if this is a repetitive experience, then it's going to bring up some form of resentment also.
Ooh, and resentment's a big thing. We know this already. I just want to thank you, Brett, because we threw you into the deep end there many times over. The nation was waiting with bated breath, but you've given us some great tools when it comes to healthy relationships, which is what we want for 2025.
Absolutely. And I think with that, I've been inspired to take this into my own world and to remind myself that we should know thyself in order to know others. And it really is important to ask the right questions. So if you're in a relationship, you are looking for some more advice, then maybe reach out to Brett or a counselor that is able to give you something professional. And nothing but professional magic is going to continue to come your way right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Mzansi. So don't go anywhere. We've still got a good couple minutes to send you off into your Tuesday.